One of the best ways to mix up your overhead pressing and also to reinforce really good overhead pressing technique is an exercise called the Z-press. With the Z-press, we're going to take your legs out of the equation. That's going to help you focus that much more on core positioning, and it's going to help you really focus on pressing overhead and owning the position and not arching your back, as long as you execute it correctly. We're going to show you how to execute it well right now. The first thing we want to recognize is we've taken our hips out of the equation. We've taken our lower body out of the equation, and here's how that's going to help us. Because of that, we can't get any lower body drive. We also have a shorter overall lever that we really have to worry about in terms of our torso, so we get to focus more on core positioning. It's a little bit easier to not arch your back, and we don't have to worry about pelvic positioning as much. That's going to let us really focus in on our core and again on our good pressing mechanics. You can do the Z-press with a variety of implements. The best one for it is going to be with a kettlebell, so that's what we're going to show you here. And we're also going to have you do a single arm Z-press because this is a really good way to learn it, and it's going to eliminate one of the challenges of the Z-press if you're doing it with both arms, which is setup. It's going to be nice and easy to set up now. To start things off, Brett is basically going to get into a nice long seated position with his legs, and I don't really care how your legs are. You want them nice and comfortable. They can be wider if you want. They can be a little bit closer to pike position. Whatever is nice and comfortable for you that's going to allow you to have like a nice base. From there, Brett is going to grab one of those kettlebells. Again, we're going single arm kettlebell. That way, if you start to go heavy with this exercise, you can use the other arm to help you get into this rack position. And all Brett is going to do is he's going to get into a nice, tight rack position. What he's thinking about is making sure that his forearm is perpendicular to the ground the entire time. He's got good tension in his shoulder blades, and here's the strength of the Z-press. Again, because our lower body is not part of the equation anymore, so he gets to think about keeping his abs on, making sure that they're nice and tight. He's going to get that other arm either away from your body or on your rib cage, and the reason we want it on the rib cage you're going to see in a little bit, because one of the flaws of a lot of overhead pressing is you see people sort of extend and arch their back, which we don't want to do. By putting his hand on his torso, on his rib cage, he can think about using his abs to drive his rib cage down, and he can constantly have that feedback to make sure that his torso stays closed. Once we have all of those things down, the Z-press is a simple move. All Brett is going to do is press that kettlebell overhead, driving his arm straight. He gets a little bit of shoulder blade squeeze at the very top, trying to drive into a good overhead position. Think about stacking your joints in this position. You want wrist right above your elbow, and you want elbow right above your shoulder. Then he's going to lower back down. Think about pulling back down into that good rack position. That's what's going to get you back into that good starting position. Let's give him a couple reps, Brett. He's making a really good point to not arch his back. The Z-press position helps with it, and having his hand on his rib cage to reinforce that constantly helps with that as well. And then all he's doing is pressing overhead with a little bit of power, getting a really good squeeze on his shoulders at the top. Let's just show them, Brett, what it looks like if you don't do this right. If you sort of arch your back, these are things you don't want to do. You don't want to have to lean back, because then we've taken away from that overhead pressing angle. So you want to make sure that you're in a good tight position. Your torso is essentially perpendicular with the ground, and your abs stay tight. Every time you press overhead, you're exhaling, tightening up your abs, and then you inhale and lower down. So that is the Z-press, and again, this is a super versatile move, and it's a move that you use to replace the overhead press in your standard workouts, whether you're doing total body workouts, whether you're doing pressing workouts, whether you're doing a shoulder session. This is a good first or second exercise. Think about doing it for 3 sets of anywhere from 8 to 12 reps. You can load this up once you get familiar with the motion, and again, you can use a variety of implements. The kettlebell is going to be your most natural pressing tool, but we can do this with dumbbells as well. So get the Z-press in your workouts, use it to mix up your overhead pressing. You still want to keep that standard standing or seated heavy press, because we can load that up a little bit more, but use this to change things up a couple times a month. It's going to help you really reinforce good shoulder form, and it's going to help you build those shoulders.